Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I must admit, I don't know how we're able to find over 1,000 unique stories and release these podcasts every single day about how different technologies and how they're transforming multiple industries. But it's working, so let's keep going, I say. Now, findings from a recent report I saw by the Relevance Group revealed that 83% of marketers using CDP have seen a significant improvement in business as a result. So I wanted to take a deep dive into the world of CDPs and find out more. So today we have Abhi Yadav, CEO and co-founder of a company called Zylotech, which is a self-learning B2B customer data platform that was spun out of MIT. Abhi is a tech entrepreneur with experience at many stages of the life cycle, including startup, bootstrap, VC, merger acquisition, and the list goes on. And he's also worked with enterprises across retail, tech, financial sectors, including Dell, Staples, Oracle, Cisco. And not only that, he's also an engineer with an MBA from the MIT Sloan School of Management. Once again, I think it's fair to say he knows his stuff. But enough from me. You hear more than enough from me every day, don't you? And this show is not about me at all. It's actually about the guest, sharing their insights, their expertise, and of course, to each and every one of you listening. And at the end of this conversation, I'll invite you to leave your opinions, feedback, insights, questions, whatever it may be. So let me beam your ears all the way to Boston, Massachusetts, to speak with Abhi Yadav from Zylotech. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Abhi Yadav. I'm the co-founder, CEO of a company called Zylotech. Zylotech is a self-learning customer intelligence company. What I do is I run this company. Besides having an awesome team here by my side, and we're trying to make a sort of mark in the industry and solving one of the most imminent problem of how to do customer centricity in action, like across, when we say customer intelligence, it's across identity and behavior and intent all in one. We're at, for any customer-obsessed company.
And my understanding is that Zylotech is a self-learning B2B customer data platform that's actually ensuring customer profile enrichment and can also predict purchases and brings relevancy-based recommendations toward an unprecedented lift. But for people listening and hearing about you for the very first time, could you just tell me a little bit more about the kind of problems that you're solving for your customers?
So when we talk about anything to do with customer data, customer intelligence, there are too many challenges. And one of the most key one lies in the data, which means that, the data is disparate. Sometimes we're not sure how much to trust that. What insights can it come in? Well, most of these insights that sometimes companies have is kind of ad hoc and not continuous. And then the most relevant thing is kind of in the B2B industry, it's even more complex because the whole definition of customer is kind of complex. Because in B2B companies, one company is doing business with the other, but within that company, there are different persona, contacts, people change jobs, it's always a moving target. Well, a company like, Dell or Cisco of the world may say, I have Wells Fargo as my customer, but within Wells Fargo, there's this procurement manager and IT manager and, the CIO who has changed jobs, and there may be a different person for different solution buying. So it's kind of very complex. So the customer identity remains a moving target, which a lot of companies are trying to solve as an ad hoc project versus a continuous system in. At the same time, every customer has an ongoing need and intent at a corporate level, at different subsidiary branch, and there's this really difficult for some of these B2B companies who may or may not be selling directly through partners. So how do you maintain this in a sort of a post-GDPR, privacy-centric world at the same time? So how do we keep up with all these billions of data point into some bit of actionable insight or next best action? Like you said, relevancy-based recommendation, where all this raw data point could suggest somebody on the phone, somebody on an email, like who do we send, what do we send, when do we send, sort of a thing.
And I recently read a report from the Relevancy Group that revealed that 83% of marketers using a CDP have seen significant improvements in business. Does that figure surprise you?
Not at all. In fact, that's really the tip of the iceberg. And, I'm glad after having many years of lip service around customer centricity, companies have started embracing CDP, even with the first generation CDP, which are more like a sort of a data in one place with do-it-yourself sort of a thing. If that itself has given an 83% jump to the marketeers, so, to us, that's still like a tip of the iceberg. Where somebody like us who are more sort of, next generation CDP, which is kind of more automated, instead of expecting customer to do a lot of innovation their end or DIY, we sort of have, sort of an ongoing continuous insight pipe by each customer kind of piping in. So I'm sure this would only go better, and this doesn't surprise me at all.
So how can marketers bridge the gap between customer data and analytics? Is there anything you can advise around that?
Yeah, so marketers are the people who has the KPIs of how to do personalization, how to do, make effective campaigns, and how to really show ROI. And they're sitting on a tons of customer data, one in disparate. So even if they have all in one place, how do they bring that into more actionable insight? How do they operationalize some of those raw data and analytics we can do? So the simple answer is, when you have a lot of customer data, think of some of the metrics, think of some of the scores, which you can leverage some of those data points, raw data points, and can still operationalize into your day-to-day marketing sort of processes, be it email marketing, be it website personalization. So for an example, if I want to send an email, not to in a spray and pray way, but want to look at all my customers who came to my website in the last 24 hours, whose propensity score is X, churn score is Y, who has a relevancy of X product line. Could I look at it from these filters powered by analytics and then can send out my email marketing? Sure, absolutely. And these are some of the gaps which can be filled in as long as the insights could be derived from the raw data in a sort of a more continuous, timely way, instead of more like expecting marketers to do the analysis and do like an ad hoc project.
And something else I wanted to ask you is, how have you seen technology impacting the transformation of the overall marketing organization? Because you must have seen a lot of changes.
Oh yeah, it's nowadays, I look at it that change is inevitable, and it's actually healthy. If a company is agile enough that you're having a continuous transformation and continuous changes, it's actually a good sign, and I feel more technology is moving pretty fast, but not as much as the organization and organization structures. So it comes down to building the data culture or technology culture within the company, where this moving technology, the overall impact and the sort of mindset, keep up with that pace because, it's inevitable and we're seeing a lot. It's kind of all working in a good direction with good, reasonable result. I mean, some of these companies are definitely able to harp in versus some of the others. So.
And it's also worth highlighting you are a tech entrepreneur with experience at many stages of the life cycle, from startup, bootstrapping, venture capitalists, and merger and acquisitions. So what have been the biggest lessons that you've learned that you would pass on to any startup founder that might be listening to us today anywhere in the world?
Yeah, no, I think, when it comes to startup, being an entrepreneur, being on the other side, also on the investment side, one thing really is kind of understated, but works out pretty well, is the power of empathy. So if you are thinking to do a startup, just do it, with a hat of empathy on, of how an investor, what's the value you're trying to bring for your customer? What's the value you're trying to bring to your potential investor or your potential employee or, your own family? So as long as you could, think of business problems and come up with solutions and product with a very deep empathetic connection, I think that would really set you apart, in a sort of social, political, economic sort of, factors, because there's a lot to go in doing entrepreneurship, both in your sort of professional obsession, the problem obsession, your sort of socioeconomic lifestyle, a lot of that. So the power of empathy, definitely, and, always look for a mentor.
And I also read a great post by you recently, which was about using AI to get closer to your customer. So can you expand on that for anyone listening that hadn't read that blog post? Because it's fascinating insights in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, customer in general is a sort of, I wouldn't use the word moving target all the time, but, customer is generating a whole bunch of raw data point. And companies are not keeping up with that. And more recently, companies have started building, massive data science center, AI center, hiring tons of data scientists and teams and people and platforms and technology, and then trying to kind of, modernize their business process and things like that. And all this is great. And we look at this is extremely valuable, more like a defensive strategy. But, in order to keep up with the pace of, the rate at which customer generates data, you definitely need an automation pipe or AI in specific. So for an example, from the speed of a raw data is getting generated by an individual customer, an entity, and is that raw data emanating into an insight which you're being able to leverage or personalize the experience of that customer, or sort of contextualize your offer or campaign, or sort of, your overall interaction across any channel is a really tough task. And it's just not possible no matter how many data scientists or armies of data scientists you have. And, eventually AI is one good alternative. One needs to do it. So long story short is, organizations should adapt not just AI from a sort of offensive strategy, but also do a sort of a balancing between the offensive and defensive strategy about how to get closer to a customer. There's obviously not one single bullet, and maybe a combination of some of these things would really make you get more closer and be more contextual to every individual customer, given the scale is and the expectation is to do one-on-one personalization. So,
and machine learning and automation have also grown exponentially in the last several years. I mean, it feels like we're only scratching the surface of what is going to be possible over the next decade and beyond. But how much further do you think it can be taken?
Yeah, no, I'm not. It's funny. I'm not going to talk about all these sort of singularity and hey, the world's going to be changed and all the jobs going to be taken. But I would say strongly that in the way this data is growing exponentially, there's no way to keep up. But then using machine learning and automation, because the rate in which the data is growing today, every second, every minute, within the organization, outside the organization, first party, second party, third party data, there's no other way but then to keep up with machine learning automation sort of culture embedded. And one of the thing, which we're seeing a lot of traction is kind of human-assisted AI or machine-assisted kind of human action and decisioning enablement and some of these things. And I feel like that's the right way to go in sort of, continuing up the momentum. But there's a lot to go beyond kind of standalone application. So really exciting.
And what else excites you about the opportunities ahead, and especially the emerging technologies and how they're redefining the art of the possible? Is there anything in particular that stands out and excites you?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of anything you can cull out from the whole World Wide Web, kind of unstructured data, because, there's tons of information and, people are, getting deluged with a lot of information and a lot of data around. Any interesting technology or sort of use case or, on the line of NLU, NLPs is kind of my personal favorite, where we could tame down some of these massive, disparate, messy data into something more, kind of leverageable and kind of distilled, actionable insight, which is kind of going beyond multi-level of sort of complexity.
Excellent. And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about the kind of work that you're doing, and of course your blog as well, because I know you write a lot yourself, can you remind everyone listening of where they can find you online, and also contact your team if they do have any questions?
Yeah, no. So, I normally write within the company blog. You can find us on Zylotech.com. Our blog is out there. I wouldn't say I do this every day like you on a podcast or every week or month, but I try and again, kind of share information or sort of blog or some of my writing on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great place to follow me, and I try to keep up with the pace. I should be doing more, but being a CEO, building a company, and keeping up with our customer demand. I try to kind of steal time a little bit and work on some of these thought leadership, which is really close to my heart. So love to do that. Always open for suggestion, ideas, feedback in whatever form. So always excited about some of these responses.
Well, you've worked with enterprise brands across retail, tech, and financial sectors, including Dell, Staples, Oracle, Cisco, Staples, and so many others. And so it's just great to get you on here and hear about your insights, especially around general entrepreneurial and tech topics, but also about all the great work that you're doing here and getting to hear those insights from, like I say, you've been through startup, bootstrapping, VC and M&A. It's just fascinating. So a big thank you for taking the time to come and speak with me today.
No, this is exciting. Thank you for having me, and really enjoy the conversation. Appreciate your time as well.
So a huge thanks to today's guest for sharing how marketers can bridge the gap between customer data and analytics, which is a huge pain point that's rapidly growing in today's marketing landscape. And also, of course, for talking about how technology is impacting the transformation of the overall marketing organisation, all by using insights from his own unique background. But over to you. I want to ask each and every one of you listening, wherever you are in the world with your unique background, to share your opinions, insights and expertise. And you can do that by emailing me directly at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. But you know what time it is, I'm afraid. We're out of time already. But I'll return again tomorrow with another great guest. So all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.